Hey everybody, I'm Invisible Katana, and these are my top 11 moments from the Sony E3 press conference from E3 2015. Now, I just went through this list. I did this video. This is my second time doing it, and I just got to number 4, and I'd already talked for like half an hour, so my camera overheated. So I'm kind of glad I did that. It'll let me kind of fly through this list a little bit better, let me know where to shut up and just say what I like, move on to the next one. To jump into it, number 11 for me was some of the, was the Batman Arkham Knight footage that we got to see. Even though the game is coming out basically this week, there really hasn't been a ton of footage on it. Like, the only TV spot has been like the GameStop stuff. That's how I found out that Red Hood was even in the game. So there really hasn't been too much footage on it. If you haven't looked, there haven't been a ton of announcements and things like that. And the footage we got to see was really interesting because, for one, we got to play as a random character who was a cop, and two, we got to see sort of a serious moment in the game because this cop who was seeing all these monsters and stuff, and seeing monsters attack each other and attacking him, those were all people. Like, he was hit with the fear toxin, the scarecrow toxin, and it made him see these monsters. It made him shoot people, and basically he was actually killing people when that happened. And something about that is really serious. It's a Batman game, so we aren't killing people, and we have this moment where we're actually playing as someone who's using a gun. That's something that's new as well, where we get to use weapons. As far as I know, I don't believe. Well, I guess in the first game, technically you can. If you had the Joker maps, he had like a Magnum that he used in special circumstances, and that's really about it. But other than that, you get a gun. So that was a pretty big moment. I thought that was cool. And what it made me think of, like, what it could lead to, and I'm assuming that's the beginning of the game. So going from that, it would lead into the rest of the game where we switch to Batman, and we see the aftermath of this, where this cop killed a bunch of people, and some of these other people killed each other because they were hit with the toxin as well. Because at one point we did see two of the monsters fighting each other. So everyone was eventually hit inside of that diner, and so it was just a cool start to the game, or a cool moment where it's like, this is just really serious chaos where people are actually killing each other, and we're kind of participating in that inside of a Batman game as a police officer. So it was a really cool moment. They had a little funny thing in there because it was Halloween. After someone bumped into the guy with like the Batman cowl on, he was like, "Oh, I wasn't afraid because I'm Batman." And I'm pretty sure they put that in there because of the whole "I'm Batman" thing. So I definitely love that. Number 10 for me was World of Final Fantasy, which I think like a ton of people, I'm just dubbing that chibi fantasy. It looked cute. Honestly, I'm sure I won't get the game. I just thought it looked cool. Like, it looked cute as well as it looked cool because it kind of had a very similar design to Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, it was really close to it in design when the characters went into their full-bodied mode. So it seemed pretty cool. It's one of those games that blends all the Final Fantasy games together because there are a lot of different characters from different Final Fantasy games in there. And it reminded me of the game, I believe it was called Dissidia on PSP. There were like two of those games, and that one seemed a lot more serious, but it was basically a bunch of games together, and it was just like, I think it was like all the main characters from the Final Fantasy games just kind of tossed into one, Final Fantasy game together. So it seemed a lot like that, except it was more lighthearted and stuff, and I'm sure it'll have a serious story because it's, Final Fantasy. But it looked really cool, and I like the sort of silly chibi design, but it went into regular designs for cutscenes as well as battles. It seemed like it kind of went back and forth, and so maybe you can choose in battle if you're like in chibi mode, or because they mentioned that your allies can grow to giant proportions and you stand on them, but you can also become a giant and they stand on you. So maybe the characters, when they're in like normal bodied mode, that's them, as giants. And so it seemed like it had an interesting battle mechanic to it, with you being able to get on top of your allies and them being able to get on top of you for different ways to fight throughout the game. But it looked pretty cool. Nice little troll moment before the giant reveal, but I'll get to that later in the list. Number 9 was the PS View. I love that because I think, like a ton of people, it's great to have that option finally. I mean, I know it's not exactly out all over the world, and it's not even a ton of channels at this point. But to have it where someone finally gives us the option to just say, I like these 8 channels, because I think a lot of people really only have at max like 12 to 13 channels that they watch on cable, and then maybe most of those could end up being the movie channels, because you have those, you kind of count them as like, yeah, I watch these, but really it's just you get the bundle of movie channels because you just, whatever movies are on, you might want to watch one because you haven't seen it yet. But really, like TV station channels, you might have your local couple of channels, there's like 4 or 5 right there, and then maybe a couple cable channels, so maybe 5 or 6 there. So you have, like, like I said, almost a dozen channels that you really focus on. And now Sony is really giving us the option to pick those specific channels so that we can do it. And it's just really cool, and it's going to change a lot for cable. It won't destroy cable, of course, because, with it being even announced at E3, there are going to be a ton of people who don't hear about this. Like my parents, they wouldn't know unless I told them, like, hey, this thing is coming out. And also, I have to assume you either need a Sony TV or you need a PlayStation for it to work. But it was just a cool concept. So it'll be interesting to see when they really start rolling things out. I know it's going to do fine because it's like, who wouldn't want that option instead of, like with AT&T, one of the big things that I kind of hate about them is that you have to get like the 300 package channel thing just to get Cartoon Network. And that really blows to me because, like, I love Cartoon Network. I watch, Toonami, Adult Swim. It's like that, missing out on that really, really sucks. And now you can just get that channel. You can get, Nickelodeon for like Ninja Turtles and Disney XD for like Star Wars Rebels. Obviously, you're knowing what shows, like, those are like the only shows I watch on those channels. But you can get your channels for those couple of shows, and it's like, now you don't have to pay for, seriously 150 excess channels or 275 excess channels that you don't even bother watching because it's like 13 effing sports channels and 40 music channels, and it's like, I don't need this. I can look up, I know what songs I like and all that extra stuff. So I thought it was great. It's kind of funny that it was announced at E3, and it's like, obviously it's the Sony press conference, but really we all know if it's at E3, it's basically the PlayStation conference. So it was kind of funny that that's where it's announced. And typically when they do stuff that shies away from gaming, like here's the technology aspect, normally it doesn't go over too well. But I think this is probably the best away from gaming thing that we've seen at E3 outside of what Microsoft had with the HoloLens. And technically that was kind of with gaming because that's what they showed it off for. But that's my number 9 moment. Number 8, I kind of blended these 3 things together because they all fit into a really, really beautiful category. And I know a lot of you guys are going to hate me that it's so low on my list. But for me, my number 8 moment is kind of just the revival of Shenmue 3, Last Guardian, and Final Fantasy 7. I think it was just really the revival element of the conference and of really all of E3 in general. It was the big thing, and I think those were the big 3 moments that really, I mean, heck, it could have been Final Fantasy by itself, and that would have been like Sony won, E3. But all those 3 things together were just great, great moments. And the reason it's so low on my list is because the games just aren't that big of a deal to me, to be totally honest. Never experienced the Shenmue games. Honestly, I have a Dreamcast, and I only have, like, the only 2 games I really play on it are, like, Berserk and Dino Crisis. And I got that from my uncle, so I didn't even have a Dreamcast when, like, Shenmue and stuff came out. So I never experienced those games. Last Guardian, admittedly, I wasn't like a giant fan when that was even announced, and it looks pretty cool. The footage we got, I did enjoy. It was a nice little puzzle element. It's definitely got the same Ico Shadow of the Colossus feel to it, so it looks really cool. But it still wasn't like the biggest thing in the world to me. And for Final Fantasy VII, I played it once when I was younger. I played through a lot of it, but I never beat the game. I didn't even start from the beginning. I may have. I really don't even remember because that was really it. I think I did all that stuff in like 1, maybe 2 or 3 days. I was spending the weekend at my grandmother's when my uncle still lived there, and that was it. I was playing, on his PlayStation, playing Final Fantasy VII. And that was it. Like, I love the characters. They're always, it's Final Fantasy VII, so all of them are constantly recognized and stuff. I saw the Advent Children movie. They're obviously the ones in Kingdom Hearts. They're the ones everyone kind of really uses more than anyone else. So I know the characters, of course. It's Final Fantasy VII, and it looked great. It looked exactly like the film did, which I think is actually kind of awesome. So it'll be great to see how that game does turn out, what they're gonna add to it, how everyone looks. We're gonna get Cloud, Barrett, Tifa, Yuffie, which I'm excited for because I always like Yuffie more than anybody else. Not only was she the ninja, but I just always thought she was the cutest. But aside from that, I just think it's really cool that these three games are being brought back because they're like 5 games really, and we just got 3 out of 5 games brought back to life. The other two are Half-Life 3, who knows, and Beyond Good and Evil 2. I don't know what Ubisoft is doing with that. It's weird that they have a game just in development limbo, especially when it's Beyond Good and Evil 2. But I guess it's kind of the same for Valve. It's like it's Half-Life 3. Why is that still in limbo? But we at least have 3 games, because they were the ones that are always put on those top 10 lists, like games just stuck in development hell that everyone really wants. And now we have 3 of them back, and so we have the remake coming out at some point. It's just it was announced, now it's really it, but it's happening for real. Last Guardian we have actual gameplay of, which is pretty cool. Shenmue 3, I love the fact that they did the Kickstarter and the guy was like, I hope you guys support us, and it's like, I know it's weird to ask for $1 billion, but that's obviously what they're gonna get. Like, they reached the limit within the, on the same day. Like, at this point, I'm sure it's like $1 million over, so it's, that's coming out for sure. They're far beyond the limit that they need. It's basically gonna be a full-on hologram by the time the Kickstarter closes. They're gonna have so much more money. But I love that happened, even though I'm not most likely gonna get those games. It was just a big moment in gaming history in general. Like, it wasn't just one of the games. It still would have been huge if it was Final Fantasy VII, but it was 3 at one time in one conference. So it was just a huge moment that I loved, even as someone who doesn't exactly love the game specifically, as someone who just loves games in the industry. It was a huge moment that you can't help but just love that type of stuff. So it was 3 great moments that I kind of just had to put into one because it was just like that element of the conference. Number 7 goes into a pretty interesting IP that we've had for about 2 years now. We've been hearing stuff about it, and that's No Man's Sky. I'm still excited for that game a lot. We got to see really the grand scale of things in this one, so I love that we got to see like the Sentinels, which were on the planet after he kind of showed us that the planets are fully destructible. So that was something we got to see. The Sentinels, which help protect some of the planets, possibly all of them. They didn't really get into specifics. It was just like, here's what you can do, here are these things, and no specifics, but we got to see like multiple galaxies and all of this stuff. So I definitely love that, and it's like some of these planets will be visited. A lot of these planets will never be visited. So it's just like, it's pretty amazing, and I just love seeing it every time. It showed off like sort of the beacon thing for the planet, the radar thing where you can sort of discover different species. You get points for that, which they also didn't explain, but it was obviously there. Like, you get this much money, which I have to assume is to possibly upgrade weapons as well as your ship, because there are the space battles, which I don't know if that's just people fighting or if that's going to be a story thing, which we still haven't gotten much on, but it was definitely cool. So just No Man's Sky, more of that is always really good. And I'm excited to see what the next big reveal is, if there is going to be story to it. But for now, that's my number 7 moment. Number 6 is something that's much like No Man's Sky. It's something that's really interesting as a concept. It's just like, it makes you think, like, how is this going to turn out? And that's definitely Dreams by Media Molecule. I love what they did with Little Big Planet. I think everyone does. It's just a fun freaking franchise. Make what you want. You can make videos. I've seen some crazy stuff in Little Big Planet where someone made like a full-on first-person game somehow. I don't know how they did that with the 2D planes and it looks 3D like you're walking. I couldn't possibly begin to contemplate that, but with Dreams, it's just interesting. Like, we got the little bit of footage where it was sped up, and it's like they made the character, and then we got to see the sort of puppeteering movements, and then they went into the trailer, and that answered like my first question was like, so are these going to be playable? A lot like Little Big Planet, where things are kind of levels, and it looked like they made videos. You know, they obviously did. They made videos out of the creations, so it still has, you know, like the guy said, it's gonna make you. If you have a lot of questions, that's fine. I definitely do. I love this style of it, where it's sort of oil paintings and things like that. That looked really cool. They're obviously pre-made sets and constructs that you can put up, doors and lamps and pianos, things like that. So there's stuff that's already in it, and then there's a lot of things you can make. They had it like the little spaceship moment that they had is probably the biggest example of what the game can do, where it was, you know, one character was actually shooting, another character was on his ship, you know, moving around back and forth. So I don't know if, you know, I still don't know how all that stuff works together, how we officially make the videos, do we put in commands and things like that. But it looks good. I'm excited to play it. It's Media Molecule, so it's going to be creative. Obviously, just the way it looks is insanely creative. So I love that it was a great show for a new IP by a really great company. So that was definitely my number 6 moment. It was just really cool, really fun to see. Number 5 is actually Uncharted 4. I love the franchise. I'm going to buy that game guaranteed. I didn't need to see anything, but it was great to see some footage. We got to see, you know, more shoot 'em up stuff, which was kind of why it ended up at number 5. I was still more excited for that than Dreams because it was the first reveal of it, and it was, you know, a lot of questions. And for this, it was like, okay, well, here's a shooting portion, which is Uncharted. That's normal. What I did love from that, my favorite part was the destructible environments, and I think that's kind of why they picked that portion. Like, here's some, you know, the new tech for the game. Things were being destroyed because bullets obviously go through wood. They had a little bit of that in the last game, I believe, but now it's like things really get destroyed. Drake was up against like a bag of rice, and you could see it sag lower and lower as more bullets went into it because more rice would be pouring out. So I love that. When he was shooting up like a column, it was getting destroyed, and I'd love to see how that plays out. How destructible things get, like if I toss a grenade or used a rocket launcher or something like that. I'd love to see that. We did get to see Sully. This was the first footage, I believe, of Sully actually in Uncharted 4, so that was pretty cool. Graphically, it still looks amazing. We also got to see that we get to control a car at one point, which we haven't been able to actually control a vehicle since the very first game, I don't believe. I think it was, even in the first game, you don't control the actual truck itself. You're in the passenger seat, and then you get to control, like, the Sea-Doo, and that's really it. Like, you control the Sea-Doo while driving, and you also control another character when that happens, too. But we actually get to drive this truck. It seemed like it had branching paths as well, so you can kind of go in different ways down the road and stuff, or down this big hill. So that was cool. I do wish we got to see more of Sam rather than Sully, because Sam being Drake's brother, that's a huge deal. I also would have loved to have seen like Chloe or the other girl whose name I really can't remember, who's not as interesting as Chloe. But you know, we still have the two of them, possibly Charlie from the last game as well. I don't know if he's going to be in this one, but I'd love to see him come back because he was introduced in the last game. So they obviously, it seems like once they introduce a character, that character stays in. So, you know, and it's the last game as well. So they kind of have to just throw everyone in. Let's get everybody and see everyone and just have a good time with this. But I love the footage. Got to see the little grapple hook at the very end of it and stuff. The banter was still really good. It was kind of funny that they had to restart the demo. I don't know what happened there, but it just, Drake would not move. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun, and you know, it was more Uncharted 4, so I'm excited for that. Like I said, didn't need to see footage, but I love what I got to see, so I enjoyed that. Number 4 was very surprising. That it, especially the fact that it's on my list in general is surprising. The fact that it's so high on my list, huge shock for me personally, and that's Black Ops 3. It actually looked really, really amazing. I thought it looked really cool. It's still Call of Duty. It has the name, but the technology of it is just like so far beyond what it used to be. It's becoming more than just, oh, I got a machine gun and this and that. The weapons look cool. 4-player co-op in the main campaign, which I don't believe they've had before. I don't know if that was in Advanced Warfighter or the previous Black Ops game. But either way, that looked really cool. The technology, they had like the Bee Swarm was in there. One character took over an entire enemy controlled like mech unit. So all of that was really cool. The trailer they had after that for the multiplayer was super awesome, with everyone having their own specific like unlockable weapons or abilities. Like the guy had the glitch thing where basically he teleported. So all of that just looked amazing. I thought it was and incredibly well done trailer. So I really loved that one, and it just surprised me, and it was really cool. So I might actually pick up a Call of Duty game, which I haven't since the first Modern Warfare. I've played Modern Warfare 2 and 3 and Black Ops, and I haven't played one since then, and that's really been it. But this one really looked cool. So that's my number 4. Number 3 is actually Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I mentioned this in another press conference moment. Assassin's Creed was in there, but it was really low on the list because I love the franchise and stuff. But the trailer they had for this with Evie was amazing. I loved her. I was like, she's just super awesome. Like, she was like destroying those people left and right. They didn't need the fancy music. It was just like she's distracting people, killing people. She, takes on 2 guys. She just tossed one guy on the presser and he just gets smashed. She stabs the other dude. And then she uses the cane sword and just takes out 3 guys at once. And it was amazing. And we get a little detail on her that she's actually the oldest of the twins, which I find funny because I don't know if that's a thing in media where the older twin is always the like really serious one. But even I did that because I do that like my little a little story I'm writing. Like every time there's a set of twins, the older one is really serious. So I don't know if I just picked that up somewhere and didn't realize it, but I thought it was kind of funny that she was the older one, but like what, a minute possibly. And she's like super serious compared to Jacob, but she was super badass, and it was like I just love this trailer. It was like it was really simple, and it just showed off her, and it was amazing, and that was all it took to get it that high on my list. Number 2, actually a brand new IP, Firewatch. I don't know what it was about it. It just seemed really cool. It was like there's a mystery involved with you being a park ranger. There's who kidnapped these 2 young girls. They cut the wire for communications. They're in your tower, and it was just like they put a lot of stuff into this trailer. Like you talk to this one girl as the main character, and they have this conversation, the main character and this woman, and it's like okay, they talk more than other people do in their towers and things like that. So that was cool. They have this bit of a different connection. And then they show like little footage here and there. It's like a cute little turtle. Like I just picked up a turtle. The guy he threw the beer when he was talking to the 2 girls and they were at the lake because they were littering and stuff like that. And then there's this mystery kidnapper slash possible murderer who's trying to obviously do something illegal. So it was just like a cool little trailer where it's like I don't know exactly what to expect from this game, but it looks cool. I like the design of it too. It seems, it has like it has like sort of like a Pixar movie style design to it, but the story seems way darker than that, like where it could get really deep, but it also has clear comedy elements, like from the beginning of it where he was in the cave and he was acting like he was in trouble and stuff like that. So it has comedy in it. It has a mystery to it. It seems like it'll be an interesting exploration game where you have to survive out in the woods, and it makes sense as a park ranger. You'd have skills that you build up and you already know from the beginning, and then who you may have to save and solving this mystery of who kidnapped these girls and why they did and why they're going the extra mile, not only to kidnap them but like to cut this wire and sneak into your post and your tower and all this other stuff. So it was really cool. Like it just had a lot in that trailer, and it made me really interested. I was like, this story seems like it'll be interesting, and this mystery seems like it'll be something to solve. So that was my number 2. My number 1 moment of the conference is yet another new IP, and that's Horizon New Dawn. I loved it. I thought it was really cool. It was kind of hard for me to choose which one would be 1 and which one would be 2, but I think Horizon, and I kind of have to shoot through this now because I'm almost at my limit again, but because it showed us so much and it explained this crazy world where it's like it was basically our future but destroyed. All the animals were technology based and stuff like that, or maybe they always had been, and there's this balance between humans and technology, and it just looked really great. I thought it visually it looked really good. The combat was amazing because it was very dynamic, where it's like they have this serious connection with the creatures, where she killed the one young creature and she was like, sorry, young one. So she considers the small creatures as like little babies, where you would prefer to have them grow up at least and live their life before you hunt them. So I love that aspect of it, where you don't kill the young, or they don't want to, and they only hunt like adult, full adult game. So I thought that was really cool. The fighting was sweet. The fact that they have like a giant T-Rex that you can take parts off and it shoots rockets. You can take the rockets and attack it. All of that was really amazing. So I just love the combat of it. I love the little bit of story that we got, and it seems like it's going to ramp up to this crazy man versus technology battle, which seemed like it already took place in the past. But I think there's so much exploration to be had there, so many characters to meet, so much lore that was explained in the trailer and that can be explained later on. But it was amazing to me. I thought it was a great first look at this game. I think it's going to be an amazing game to play, action wise as well as story wise. It just seems like it has so much to offer. So that's why it's definitely my number one moment of the conference. And those were my top 11 moments of the Sony press conference. So, of course, I want to know your favorite moments of the press conference. Favorite moments as well as least favorite moments. What bothered you? What, made you go crazy, which is most likely going to be any of the three games that were finally brought back to life. But whatever your list is, whether it's 10, 5, 20, or just, two things, please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts as well as your least favorite parts. And of course, thanks for watching.